basic education is a human right, and by failing to educate all children, we could be sentencing them to a life of poverty and despair. Victor Hugo was certainly correct when he said, "He who opens a school door closes a prison." Without this right to education, a leading voice has said, the values of liberty, justice, and equality will have no meaning. Ignorance is by far the biggest danger and threat to humankind. That leader is the founder of education above all, Her Highness Sheikha Moza bin Nasser.
In 2012, I looked at the 60 million young children who were out of school and said, we must act. These children came from the most marginalized, most vulnerable communities in the world. Many had been displaced due to conflict, others were refugees, some were fleeing poverty or natural disasters, and none of them were in school. I thought, what if we could gather partners from around the world and work together to provide a quality education for even 10% of these out-of-school children? Experts told me that educating 6 million children would be impossible. But I refused to believe it. One advisor told me to set a goal that was more realistic. I thought I heard him say optimistic. So I set a goal of 10 million. Well, my friends, 10 million is a very, very large number, especially when we are talking about 10 million individual boys and girls, each with their own life stories and with their own special challenges. Thanks to the efforts of our Educated Child program and our many global partners, I am proud to announce tonight that we have reached our impossible, our unattainable, and our completely unrealistic objective. 10 million previously out-of-school children will now receive a quality education.
The world cannot afford a generation of children and young people who lack the basic skills they need to compete in the 21st century economy. Nor can we afford to leave behind an entire gender, half of humanity, as a matter of their rights and as a matter of our best interests. Nor can we afford to sacrifice these young lives to disillusionment, despair, and even, in some circumstances, the risk of extremist thought. For the peace of our world, the prosperity of our world, and the future of our world, there is no better investment than in education. And which is why the Sustainable Development Goal 4 calls on governments to deliver equitable, quality education for all, including those children still being left behind. And we need to be conscious that there are, unfortunately, still many governments in the world that do not fully recognize that education should be the first priority of their policies, wherever the area of the world in which they are. Today's event shows that we can get more children into school, even in the most difficult circumstances. The third priority is that as we get more children into school and keep them there, we must also ensure that school equals learning. We cannot accept 250 million children failing to learn even the most basic skills. And the Education Above All Foundation will continue to be an important part of all these efforts. Your leadership, your investment, and your vision are essential to help governments to live up to the promise they make to every child. Thank you for lending your hands and your hearts to this compelling cause, the cause of children, because their future is our future. And as we support their dreams today, we support our dreams for a better, more sustainable world tomorrow, for all people, everywhere. Thank you.
On April 11th, 2017, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres announced the appointment of the President as co-chair of the Secretary General's Sustainable Development Goals Advocates, with Prime Minister Ernest Solberg of Norway. It is my great pleasure to welcome this great friend and champion of education, the President of Ghana, co-chair of the Sustainable Development Goals Advocates, His Excellency Mr. Nana Akufo-Addo.
We have all accepted that education is the best route to moving out of poverty. Today's youth running barefoot to school could be a future leader of the arts, business, government, industry, or sports. The stories of each one of us gathered here this evening have been made possible largely because someone insisted that we were educated. In my case, that person was my father. His route to being educated, however, was not a smooth one. He was a young boy from a town in Ghana called Akropong who lost both parents at a tender age. But through perseverance and borrowing money from a relative, he burned the midnight oil to end up as a barrister and become the outstanding figure that he was in Ghana. Indeed, at the time I was born, my dad was still paying off monies borrowed from that helpful relative. There are many in several parts of the world who find themselves in the shoes of my father and are being denied an education due to the lack of money, the demise of a parent or parents, or the impact of conflict. Indeed, we are told that 63 million children in the world between the ages of 6 to 11 are currently out of school. EAA and UNICEF will help bridge that gap and draw us closer to the realization of Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which enjoins us to help ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. For us in Ghana, the capitation grant, introduced some 13 years ago under the administration of that far-sighted Ghanaian statesman, His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor, the second president of Ghana's Fourth Republic, is presently enabling 6,371,975 school-going children, representing some 90% of school-going children in Ghana, to enjoy fee-free education in our basic schools. The free senior high school policy, introduced for the first time by my government in September last year, has put 90,000 more students into senior high school in 2017 than in 2016. Our goal is to guarantee every Ghanaian child a minimum of secondary school education. It is the hope of every mother and father, not only in Ghana, that education will help their children escape poverty and provide them the avenue to a good life. Your Highness, Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, I want every child to attend school, not just for what they learn in books, but also for the life experiences that they will gain. I want each of them to look in the mirror in the morning, every morning, and know that they can achieve anything they dream of when they complete their studies. I want them to be confident that what they study is relevant to the demands of our time and of tomorrow. I want every child to be comfortable in the knowledge that when they work hard, they will be as capable as anyone else on the planet. And I want parents to look upon their children with pride as they watch them mature into self-confident adults and productive members of society. Education is the key. Indeed, the successful implementation of the SDGs presents our generation with a truly historic opportunity to eradicate global poverty and ensure that no one is in fact left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the 10 million children who are being afforded the opportunity to sit in a classroom and chart their own path for the future, I say thank you once again to Her Royal Highness, Sheikh Musa bin Nasser, Education Above All, and UNICEF. May God bless us all. I thank you for your attention.
Henrietta, everybody has invoked this notion of women and girls and the importance of education there. You've been a long-time supporter. UNICEF has been a very long-time supporter of girls' education. What do you see as cutting-edge issues that address that?
Well, if I may pay homage to President Akufo-Addo, I think having free secondary school is probably the greatest gift that you can give to a family and a girl. It then encourages the girl to not be considered lesser in her family, and it encourages her to go to school. And if a girl can go to school, then it means there are so many other benefits. To Her Highness's point, there are health benefits. She does not become a young mother and become a young bride. We have half of the maternal deaths are because the mothers are just too young. They're adolescents, they're children with children. And so the benefits to a society are immense. To a family, they're even larger because then she is able to build a new family and a family that is healthy. For girls, we see that it is probably the single most important area for a government to bring up, whether it is in early childhood development, primary school, or secondary school.